Apologize there. So actually, let's go ahead and get started now. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for March 5th, 2020. All right. I caught that right as I was getting started, so don't have to redo anything. So should be able to hear me now. Apologize earlier if you saw me talking and weren't hearing anything. I had the mic on mute. But let's go ahead and take a look at where the market is finishing here. Okay, Q's down 3%, SPY down 3.3. Okay, coming into today, neutral to bullish. Okay, the issue with not going all in on this hourly uptrend that we had was that we had this daily sell setup in place. Okay, notice the daily sell setup did trigger today, and that to me was the hang up here. Okay, that was creating the time frame conflict that kept me neutral. Okay, I did acknowledge that we were getting closer and closer to breaking above and making it so that we weren't going to get the sell set up, that we were going to have to wait another day or two. And we even got some bullishness early on. You can see the gap down actually didn't go right away. We actually rallied throughout the morning. So, you know, I think what we got today is pretty well embodied in the time frame conflict that we have, which is that we got this recent steep breakdown. We got the retracement here. And then, you know, at any point, if that triggers, we're going to have the daily at odds with the hourly. And so anticipation of that really kept me from going all out bullish here, even though the hourly was really trying to make a decent attempt to go higher. So, you know, coming into today, neutral to bullish. Initially, we had some bullishness kind of show up first, but you can see that got sold. Now going into tomorrow, all right, underneath the double bottom here that we have on the hourly. So basically today's low, we got a little bit of a pivot created from, I believe that's Tuesday's low. Yeah, Tuesday's low. All right, underneath this area, we're going to be all out bearish, okay? We were bullish after we negated the sell setup and did a pullback. Then we came in, kind of negated, and so we were neutral for the last couple days. You can see that that little bit of a bullish bias after we bottomed was very short-lived because we were running into this retracement, into the sell setup. You could tell that the sell setup was coming, especially anyone who, you know, knows the definition of our sell setup, of our retracement plays. It was only kind of a matter of time before that came into play. Okay, so starting off tomorrow, we are going to be neutral, but underneath 297.50 there on the Qs and underneath 207.60 on the Qs. It's going to be all out bearish, okay, on the Qs and SPY. All right, so, you know, for the last couple of days, as you know, we've been neutral. You can see we really haven't gone anywhere. We've kind of set up this range. So I think, you know, not that surprising that we put in this sloppy kind of back and forth because we do have conflict with the larger time frames and the smaller time frames here. Okay, so neutral, if the sell setup gets going, all out bearish. That sell setup on the daily. All right, so I kind of teased the topic that we were going to talk about today earlier before unmuted my mic. So let me go over what we're going to talk about today, which is how one breakdown, same setup, same time, can be played very differently amongst two different traders, the same breakdown, okay? And even if we understand what a breakdown is, which is consolidation, right? We're looking for equal highs and equal lows, that even traders looking at the same thing at the same time are not going to necessarily play something the same way. And that's because we make stylistic choices, hopefully in alignment with kind of our expectations and who we are as traders, okay? And so let me show you, based on this CCL example, which you might have played with me today, this breakdown on the CCL. Okay, so now, of course, we're gapping down underneath this base. Expect weakness here to continue on the CCL, and we got a setup here on this breakdown. Now, the numbers that I gave here that I was going to be playing, I was going to be putting the stop up here. And I even said after that, if you want, the alternate stop would be to put it here above 30.25. Okay, but we're playing this breakdown here. Okay, so underneath 30, underneath the whole number, okay, and a stop either above 45 or above 25. Okay, so pretty decently different size stops, one being about 25 cents, the other being about 45. Okay, now, and I actually talked about this yesterday as well, that my preference as a trader is to use the more secure stop. So in my opinion, this is the more secure stop. Obviously, if 45 is going to get taken out, 25 has to get taken out first, and more time was spent kind of setting up this base. I like this kind of retest that we've gotten from earlier on the CCL. So my stop is going up there. Now, someone who played with the tighter stop at 30.25, and this thing has dropped very, very quickly to 29.30. Of course, with only a 25-cent stop, they're willing to lose 25 cents per share. They're looking at a much nicer gain, right? They've gained now twice, more than twice what they risked, where I'm only looking at kind of a 1R gain. Okay, so if you're the type that doesn't like to sit through plays, that doesn't like to be in it all day, maybe you only trade the mornings, right? Then you're probably going to favor the tighter stop. Now, the reason I go with the looser stop is because I want to be in it all day. The things that I play, things I look at should be doing something pretty significant on the daily, should also be putting in one of the widest bars, biggest volume days. So I want to try to be in it till the end of the day. Okay, so that's why I use the bigger stop, because I don't want to get shaken out. Okay, now of course it means that I'm using a bigger stop. That means that, you know, on that nice drop, it's not as nice for me, right? But that's my preference. I thought when I first, you know, came to trading that I'd be the type that would press buttons every other second and was constantly in and out of positions and flipping things, and kind of over time I found that my strength is not in scalping. It's in getting in the play, in managing it, and letting it run. So you know, that's my strength. That's where I'm most comfortable with, and that's where my tracking has shown me that I do the best and make the most money. So that's where I try to go with. So of course, when this is popping back up, you know, I'm thinking, oh, that's too bad. You know, I did use the bigger stop, so this wasn't up as nicely for me, so I'm going to have to sit through a pullback. Okay, now if you played the tighter stop, yeah, you got your target quickly, and you're probably not going to want to live through this pullback. And you see that this pushback actually took out the top of that stop. Now, I don't think most people would, you know, not at least take some profit when this was up, right? So it should have been a winner either way, if not taking the whole thing. But for me, okay, I got to live through this thing because I'm looking for a much bigger move, right? And it's not that both plays, one is better than the other or one is the right way to do things, right? And you can see I even had to live through another pullback here, right? And then eventually you can see that it did trail off the hourly here over 28.03, okay? About $2 later, right? And so it's the kind of thing that we have to understand who we are. Now, if you're, you know, you can't sit through all this, and you'd rather not, then, you know, you're going to want to probably use bigger size on that initial break and also be quicker on the targets, right? So that you don't have to live through all that. Because the worst thing to do would be, you know, to play it with the big stop. And then, you know, when it's doing this, you decide, okay, I don't want to live through all of this anymore. And so you say, you find some reason, you get out here. You know, first you initially play it and you say, okay, I'm not going to take it because I'm looking for much bigger targets. And then you start to kind of panic or get uncomfortable, right? And you say, okay, well, I'll just get out of it. Or you say, I'll kill it break even because, you know, I don't want to let it go negative, right? And then the next thing you know, you look at it, right, and it's $2 further down, right? So you have to kind of understand the way that you can manage your plays consistently. Okay, we had another example Let's see when this was. A couple days ago, maybe, on the Zen here. Okay, on this base here. Okay, similar thing here. Okay, now you can use this tighter stop here, or you can use up here around 74, right? And if you use a tighter stop, maybe you use the initial pivot there that it gives you here, right? So that when it gives you a decent drop, right, you're out of the whole thing. Maybe use this, but then you're out of it and you don't have to live through all of this pushback, right? But then that also means you're probably not going to be in it for this next leg down. And so even on some of the ways that we call plays, and even for the official play, they took it and trailed it out here, right? There was someone who mentioned that they were still in it, still had their back half on the Zen, right? And that's why we always encourage you to manage the way that suits you the best, right? I think this play was managed by Sammy. It was a pretty nice play, but even nicer for those that decided I am going to stick to my own management, right? And we're in it here as it made new lows. Okay, so there's, as with a lot of things, like there's a trade-off there, right? Is the point I'm trying to make. And so if you can better understand your approach to trading, what you aim to achieve, right? Which management suits you the best, which you can do the most consistently, right? Then that's what you want to go with. I like taking these, these plays and being in them for hours. It doesn't really bother me. I don't really get anxious. Of course, I like when they just go to a big target right away, of course. But, it's not something that as the play goes on where, my anxiety builds or anything like that. In fact, I get more uncomfortable. I get more comfortable with the play, because I want to be in it till the end, right? And that's the case with a lot of the plays that we take. It's just, which thing can you do consistently, right? The only thing I gave you numbers for this afternoon was the CAMP breakdown, and I know it's down a lot when it's doing this breakdown. I think the breakdown was under 820. It's already a giant red bar, but I'm expecting on this day with the way that it's breaking down on the weekly and the monthly, and that it's gonna close at the lows. How low is it gonna go? I think that's the hard part. So I just want to be in it until the end, right? Base breakdown there. Okay. Now, unfortunately, the annoying thing on this was tried getting it at 20 and didn't fill me till 12. So what was supposed to be like a 15-cent stop ended up being a 25-cent stop. So yeah, it was kind of just the way it is with the uptick. Not much you can do with that, but so it's, and so when I get in something like this, I expect to be in it till the close here. So it's just the last thing that I was managing here before coming on the mic to do the market wrap. So it's one of those things that it takes some kind of self-awareness to understand. Even if we're saying here's a base breakdown, let's all play it. How we size it, where we put the stop can vary from trader to trader. Okay. So hopefully, that made sense. It's something that we've been talking about for the last couple of days, and I thought CCL was a really good example because I'm sure some people, had a really nice play right off the bat, and for me, sometimes that first drop may not be enough, and I'm gonna have to live through a pullback, and I'm okay with that, right? So, all right. So hope you did well today. If not, we'll be back at it tomorrow to close out the week. All right, going into tomorrow, going to be neutral, but once we trigger this daily sell setup underneath Tuesday's low there, it's going to be all out bearish. Okay? All right. Have a good evening.